All right, buckle up, everybody, for a deep dive straight into the heart of Italy. You know how much I love all things Italian, especially those iconic figures who've kind of taken their artistry global and become like world famous.
Oh, absolutely. It's such a rich cultural tapestry.
So today we're diving deep into the world of Domenico Modugno.
Oh, fantastic choice.
I know. You're probably thinking Volare, right? Yeah, we all know that one.
It's hard to escape that.
Exactly. But trust me, there is so much more to this guy than just that one mega hit, right? We're going beyond those like surface level YouTube searches, the greatest hits compilations, you know what I mean? To uncover the real Domenico Modugno. The man, the myth, the legend.
I love that. You're absolutely right. Volare might be his most recognizable tune, but his life, it was like a symphony of experiences.
Oh, I love that. A symphony of experiences.
Full of, well, high notes and low notes. And to really understand his music, I think you got to understand the man behind the music.
I am so there for that. So let's rewind all the way back to the beginning. Domenico Modugno, a.k.a., get this, Minamino, starts his life in Polignano, a mare. I mean, even as a kid, right, he had this like adventurous spirit, this thirst for exploring the world beyond his hometown. And then his family moves to San Pietro Venotico, which kind of like fuels that desire even more.
Yeah, it's like that move. It planted this seed, this need to break free and experience life to the fullest.
And you can hear that in his music too, right? Like this constant push to explore new sounds and styles, never just settling for the same old thing, always pushing boundaries.
You nailed it. And it wasn't all smooth sailing for him either. He tries his hand at running a bar, of all things, in Turin with his friend Cosimo Sciollardi.
Wait, so the guy who sang Volare was slinging drinks. Okay, this is already more interesting than those like dry biographical blurbs you find online.
Right. But it shows that he was willing to try different things, to hustle. And it didn't exactly take off, but even in failure, right, there's a lesson.
Totally.
You got to keep searching for your path, keep pushing forward.
And that's exactly what he did. So picture this. He's in Rome, hustling, trying to make it in the entertainment world. And he has this like chance encounter with the legendary director Vittorio De Sica. Talk about a sliding doors moment.
It's almost like something out of a movie.
Right.
And Modugno, being Modugno, he basically marches right up to De Sica and asks for work.
That's so bold. I love it. What did De Sica say?
So De Sica, he was impressed by his audacity. He gives him 2,000 lire.
Wow.
And a referral.
Not a bad start. 2,000 lire from De Sica himself. I'd frame that. I mean, it's amazing how sometimes just a small gesture, right, can change somebody's entire trajectory.
Absolutely. It gave him that little extra push to keep going. It rekindled his drive. And this is what eventually leads him to the Centro Sperimentale di Cinematografia in Rome. So he's studying alongside future stars, rubbing shoulders with talent like Franca Gandolfi, who, spoiler alert, becomes his wife.
Hold on. So the guy who sang Volare was hanging out with movie stars and studying film. This is way more interesting than I thought.
Right. He wasn't just a singer. He was this multi-talented artist, like with a real passion for storytelling, whether it was through music, film, or even theater.
And he actually started out acting in movies.
Yeah.
Like in I Pompieri di Vigio with the legendary comedian Toto. And we can't forget his love for the theater. He started with this variety show called Controcorrente back in 1954.
Yeah, and it's in those early years that you see his musical style kind of taking shape. He had early hits like La Sveglietta, Cavallucceco della Minera, and La Donnerzia. He was already blending those traditional Italian sounds with like a modern sensibility, and you can see that innovation that would define his career. It was already there.
Okay, so we've got this like young Domenico, full of ambition, trying out different things, meeting his future wife. But the music was always calling to him.
Absolutely. And the song that really catapulted him to global stardom, it was, of course, Volare.
It's practically the unofficial anthem of Italy.
You're not wrong. But what people often forget is the amount of dedication that went into crafting that masterpiece. He worked on it for a whole year with his lyricist, Franco Migliacci. They were obsessed with finding that perfect marriage of lyrics and melody, to capture that feeling of pure freedom.
And I read that they didn't exactly agree on everything during the writing process. They had some pretty legendary arguments.
Oh, for sure. They were both incredibly passionate artists with strong opinions. You know how it is, those creative sparks were bound to fly.
Yeah, but I guess those clashes, in a way, they probably fueled the song's fire, right?
Absolutely. And even Franca Gandolfi, Modugno's wife, she actually played a role in shaping the final version.
Wow, so it was a real team effort. But get this, RCA, the record label, they initially rejected the demo. Can you imagine turning down Volare?
It's hard to believe now, isn't it?
It just shows you that even the most iconic songs, right?
They all face hurdles.
Yeah. It's a real-life underdog story. That rejection doesn't mean the end. Because guess what? That song, the one they rejected, it goes on to win Sanremo in 1958.
Talk about a comeback.
And then it basically took over the world.
It resonated with people on this deep level. I mean, the melody, the vocals, that message of breaking free, it just captured imaginations everywhere. There's even a story that Caterina Valente's German version, it became even more popular than the original in some parts of the world.
That's incredible. It just shows you the power of music to transcend, borders and languages. But, what I find really inspiring is that Modugno wasn't content with just being Mr. Volare,
Yeah.
He kept pushing, kept evolving, kept experimenting.
Exactly. He was not afraid to evolve as an artist. I mean, he could have just ridden that Volare wave for years, but he was so much more than a one-hit wonder.
That's the mark of a true artist, right?
Yeah.
Always seeking new ways to express themselves, to grow, to break new ground.
Yeah, he had this insatiable curiosity, this real drive to explore new musical territories. He wasn't afraid to kind of blend genres, experiment with sounds and styles, and that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears. What kind of musical adventures did he embark on? Give us the details.
Well, for instance, he incorporated elements of jazz, rock, even a little bit of folk music into his work.
Wow.
Take a listen to Nelgi di Pinto di Blu, a song he released after Volare. It's got these amazing jazzy chords, more complex arrangement than some of his earlier stuff.
Oh yeah, I love that one. It's got this cool, almost melancholic vibe to it. Totally different from the exuberance of Volare.
Right.
You can definitely hear those jazz influences you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's what makes him so fascinating, right? He wasn't afraid to take risks, to push the boundaries of what Italian popular music, could be. He even incorporated folk elements in songs like Lupici Spada, which has this raw, almost primal energy to it.
It's like he was constantly challenging himself and his audience, refusing to be pigeonholed.
And that takes guts, especially when you've already achieved massive success with a song like Volare.
Yeah, exactly. He could have easily played it safe, stuck with what worked, but he had this artistic restlessness.
Totally.
This need to evolve and explore new creative avenues.
He did, and it wasn't limited to music either.
Oh, right. He took on some seriously ambitious theatrical projects.
Like Rinaldo in Campo, which was a huge hit.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was Tommaso d'Amalfi with Edoardo De Filippo, which was, well, let's just say a bit more challenging.
Okay, what happened there?
Tommaso d'Amalfi was this passion project for Modugno. He poured his heart and soul into it, even taking on significant financial risk.
Really?
It wasn't a commercial success, but it showcased his dedication to pushing those artistic boundaries, even if it meant, going against the grain.
That's so admirable. It's he was saying, look, I'm not just here to entertain, I'm here to make a statement, right, to create something meaningful, even if it's not always popular.
Exactly, and that fearlessness, that commitment to his artistic vision, that's what makes him such an enduring figure.
So we've got this, multi-talented guy pushing boundaries in music and theater, not afraid to experiment or even face a few flops along the way.
Yeah.
But what about the man behind the music? What was he really like as a person?
Well, underneath all the fame and the artistic bravado, Domenico Modugno was a complex guy. He was known for his strong will, his passion, which sometimes led to clashes with collaborators, even close friends like Franco Migliacci.
Oh yeah, those arguments during the Volare writing sessions.
Exactly.
But I guess that kind of intensity that kind of comes with the territory, right?
Yeah.
When you're that passionate about your art, it's bound to spill over into your relationships.
You're right, but he also had a softer side, this deep love for his family and friends. Franca, his wife, she was his rock, his constant companion. And he was known for his generosity, his willingness to stand up for others. There's this story about him defending another artist, Giancarlo Guardabossi, who was unfairly eliminated from a music festival. Modugno went to bat for him, even though it could have, jeopardized his own standing.
Wow, that says a lot about his character. It wasn't all about fame and fortune for him.
Right.
He had a strong sense of justice.
He did.
And he wasn't afraid to use his platform to support others.
And for all his outward confidence, he was also known to suffer from stage fright.
Oh, wow. Stage fright.
Imagine that.
The guy who commanded audiences worldwide the Volare singer, getting nervous before every performance.
It's true.
That's wild. It's like a reminder that even the most successful, confident people, they have their insecurities too. It makes him seem more human,
It does, and it shows how much he cared about his art.
Yeah.
That vulnerability, that fear, it probably fueled his performances in a way. He wasn't just phoning it in, you know what I mean? He was pouring his heart and soul into every note, every gesture.
Okay, so we've got this passionate, complex artist devoted to his family, fiercely loyal and surprisingly vulnerable. But let's talk about his relationship with fame. He went from Minamino in a small Italian town to a global superstar. How did he handle that level of success?
It's a great question. And what's remarkable is that despite achieving, international fame, Modugno remained grounded. He never forgot where he came from. There's a famous anecdote about him owning a fancy car, but sometimes not having enough money for gas. He'd rather keep up appearances, to secure opportunities than admit he was struggling financially.
That's both hilarious and heartbreaking. It shows the reality of pursuing a dream, the sacrifices and the hustle that often go unseen behind the glamorous facade.
It does. He was determined to make the most of his opportunities, even if it meant stretching the truth a little bit. But it also speaks to his humility. He wasn't afraid to be vulnerable, to admit that success, didn't solve all of his problems.
It makes him so relatable, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even with all the fame and fortune, he was still just Domenico, a guy trying to navigate life's ups and downs.
Totally. And despite all of his success, he never lost sight of what was truly important: his family, his friends, his passion for music. And speaking of passion, there's this quote of his that really stuck with me. He said, "I am one who does not rest on his laurels. I am one who does not want success, because while a song is having success, the only concern is the last one found."
Yeah.
That quote, it really captures his drive, his relentless pursuit of creative expression. He wasn't content to rest on his past achievements.
Always pushing forward.
Right. He was always looking for that next challenge, the next song, the next way to kind of, push himself artistically.
He was like a creative force of nature, constantly evolving.
Yes.
Constantly searching for new ways to connect with his audience.
Absolutely. And, that brings us to another fascinating aspect of his personality, his willingness to challenge conventions, even if it meant, courting controversy. Remember that quote about marriage that we mentioned earlier?
The one that got him in some hot water.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the one. He said, "And then I realized what I had written, that it absolutely could not be broadcast. One who says our marriage is not ours to spill is not to change, because marriage is not spoken of, so it was really against marriage." It was a bold statement for the time, a challenge to traditional views on marriage and relationships.
It's like you saying, look, I'm not afraid to speak my mind, even if it ruffles a few feathers.
Exactly. He wasn't afraid to tackle sensitive topics, to push the boundaries of what was considered acceptable discourse, and that fearlessness, that willingness to challenge the status quo. I mean, that's what makes him such a compelling figure.
So we've got this multifaceted artist, passionate, complex, grounded, unafraid to speak his mind. But what about his legacy? How does his story continue to resonate with audiences today? Especially, let's be honest, those of us who are kind of, obsessed with Italy and its cultural icons.
Well, here's the thing. Domenico Modugno's legacy, it transcends borders and generations. His music, it continues to touch hearts worldwide. Volare, of course, is a global anthem, instantly recognizable, loved by millions. But his other work, the songs that showcase his, musical evolution, his experimentation, his depth, I think they're being rediscovered by new audiences, particularly those who are drawn to, the authentic, the soulful, the real.
It's like his music has this timeless quality that speaks to something deep within us, something that transcends language and cultural barriers.
You're right, and I think that's because his music, it's rooted in human experience, those universal emotions we all share. Love, loss, joy, sorrow, the search for meaning, the yearning for connection.
It's not just about catchy melodies or powerful vocals.
Right.
It's about the stories he tells, the emotions he conveys, the way he makes us feel.
Absolutely, and that depth, it comes from his own life experiences, the struggles, the triumphs, the heartbreaks, the joys, it all poured into his music. His songs weren't just entertainment, they were a reflection of his soul.
Wow.
A window into his heart.
And that authenticity, that vulnerability, that's what makes his music so enduring.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to bare his soul, to let us see his flaws, his insecurities, and in doing so, he made himself relatable, human.
Exactly. He wasn't trying to be a perfect, polished pop star. He was just Domenico,
Yeah.
a guy with a guitar and a voice full of passion. And I think that's what people connect with, that rawness, that honesty.
It's so true. And, beyond his music, Modugno also had a profound impact on Italian culture. He helped to reshape the landscape of Italian popular music,
Oh, for sure.
paving the way for future generations of singer-songwriters.
Absolutely. He broke free from that traditional mold and
Yeah.
injected a sense of modernity, international flair into the Italian music scene.
Right.
He wasn't afraid to experiment with different genres, to blend those traditional Italian sounds with elements of jazz, rock, and folk. And he challenged lyrical conventions, tackling social issues and kind of pushing boundaries with his words.
It's like he opened the door for other Italian artists to explore new possibilities, to find their own voices and express themselves in ways that might have been, unthinkable before Modugno came along.
You got it. He challenged the status quo, expanded the definition of what Italian music could be, and inspired countless artists to follow in his footsteps.
Okay, so as we kind of wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to hold on to? What's the essence of his story that we should all carry with us?
I think the most important thing to remember is that Domenico Modugno, he was much more than just the Volare guy. He was this multifaceted artist, a passionate soul, a complex human being who wasn't afraid to push boundaries, to challenge conventions, and to stay true to his artistic vision. He wasn't perfect, but his flaws, his vulnerabilities, they're part of what make him so relatable, so endearing. And his music, this raw emotion and those universal themes, it continues to inspire and move audiences all over the world.
We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into the world of Domenico Modugno. We've explored his life, his music, his complexities, but I think now it's time to talk about impact. What is it about Modugno that continues to resonate with audiences, even decades after his passing?
Yeah, that's the question that keeps his legacy alive, isn't it? I think it boils down to a few key things. First, his music had this timeless quality to it. Think about Volare. It's not just an Italian song. It's like a global anthem you hear everywhere, from like soccer stadiums to karaoke bars to like movie soundtracks.
Totally.
It's a song that like transcends language and culture.
Yeah, it's true. Volare is practically woven into the fabric of our collective consciousness,
Yeah.
But what about his other work? Does that hold up for younger generations who might not have that same nostalgic connection to his music?
Well, what's amazing is that even his lesser-known songs, they have this ability to connect with people on a deep level. Younger artists are rediscovering his catalog,
Yeah.
sampling his melodies, finding inspiration in his blend of tradition and innovation. There's a rawness, an emotional honesty to his music that continues to resonate regardless of age or background.
It's like his music taps into something universal, something that transcends time and trends.
You're exactly right, and that's because his songs, they're rooted in human experience, They explore themes of love, loss, longing, hope, freedom. These are emotions that, everyone can relate to, regardless of where they're from or what kind of music they usually listen to.
It's not just about catchy melodies or powerful vocals, right?
Okay.
It's about the stories he tells, the emotions he conveys, the way he makes us feel.
Absolutely. And that depth, I think it comes from his own life experiences. The struggles, the triumphs, the heartbreaks, the joys, it all poured into his music. His songs weren't just entertainment, they were like a reflection of his soul, a window into his heart.
And that authenticity, that vulnerability, that's what makes his music so enduring.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to bare his soul, to let us see his flaws, his insecurities. And in doing so, he made himself relatable, human.
Exactly. He wasn't trying to be like a perfect, polished pop star. He was just Domenico, a guy with a guitar and a voice full of passion. And I think that's what people connect with, that rawness, that honesty.
So true. And, beyond his music, Modugno also had a profound impact on Italian culture. He helped to reshape the landscape of Italian popular music,
Oh, for sure.
paving the way for future generations of singer-songwriters.
Absolutely. He broke free from the traditional mold, injected a sense of modernity and international flair into the Italian music scene. He wasn't afraid to experiment with different genres, to blend those traditional Italian sounds with elements of jazz, rock, folk. And he challenged lyrical conventions too, like tackling social issues and kind of pushing boundaries with his words.
It's like he opened the door for other Italian artists to, explore new possibilities, to find their own voices and express themselves in ways that might have been unthinkable before Modugno came along.
You got it. He challenged the status quo, expanded the definition of what Italian music could be, and inspired countless artists to follow in his footsteps.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Domenico Modugno, what's the one thing you want our listeners to walk away with? What's the essence of his story that we should all carry with us?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. Domenico Modugno's life and music, they remind us that true artistry, it transcends borders, languages, and even time. He was a man of immense talent and passion who wasn't afraid to be himself, chase his dreams, and push boundaries. His music continues to inspire us to embrace life with gusto, to search for meaning, and connect with each other on a deeper level.
Beautifully said. And for our listeners who are now ready to go beyond Volare and explore the depths of Modugno's musical universe, where should they start? What are some hidden gems they should check out?
Well, I'd recommend starting with his albums from the late 50s and early 60s. That's where you'll really see his musical evolution. Look for albums like Vecchio Frac and Il mio canto del Cirillico. You'll discover a different side of Modugno, a more introspective, sometimes melancholic side that's just as captivating as his more upbeat hits.
Awesome. I'm adding those to my playlist as we speak. And of course, YouTube is a treasure trove of Modugno content, right? You can find live performances, interviews, even clips from his films.
Exactly. Don't limit yourself to just the popular stuff. Dive in and explore his entire catalog. You might be surprised by what you find.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into the world of Domenico Modugno. I hope you enjoyed the journey as much as we did. It's been a pleasure exploring the life and music of this incredible artist. And remember, even in the face of adversity, even amidst life's chaos, beauty and joy can be found. So crank up your favorite Modugno tunes, let music wash over you, and remember to embrace life with the same passion and gusto that he did. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next videos.